Airways flight. It has been over 1,700, actually exactly 1,716 days since he last was deported, and that was on March the 29th of 2018, having first been deported out of the country in, I believe it was February the 7th of 2018. You can imagine there's a lot of jostling, and that's why we're trying to get a clearer picture coming out of the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. But there you have it, Miguna, almost 5 years out of the country. He has set foot on Kenyan soil, the man having been born in Kenya but having been deported in 2018 as a consequence of presiding over the swearing-in of Raila Odinga at the end of the month of January as quote-unquote the people's president. Thereafter, his home was stormed by security agencies. We saw him arrested and later arraigned at the Kajiado law courts, and he refused to take plea there, insisting that he would appear before High Court Judge Luka Kimaru. Later on, he was released on bail before being deported. Let's listen to it and get a sense of what the mood is at the JKIA. All right, I see our reporter and our cameraman on ground are trying to make sure we get the best picture coming out of there. And as I was saying, he was deported on February the 7th. The reason given by the Interior Ministry was that in obtaining his Canadian passport or citizenship, he renounced his Kenyan citizenship. It was also argued that his passport issued at the time in 2009 was irregularly done. So I can hear some sounds coming out of the JKIA, so we will be bringing those pictures to you in a moment. So that was the basis of his deportation, according to a statement released by Mwenda Njoka, who then spoke for the Ministry of Interior. Later on in court, we heard from the state that the National Intelligence Service, the NIS, had informed senior immigration officials that Miguna was a threat to national security, and that in part informed his deportation. The courts have time and again stated that that was illegal, that he was illegally deported, especially as the courts had released him on bail and instructed that he appear before them on subsequent occasions for hearing and for mention. So that is part of what has transpired, what led up to his deportation and the events around it. Now, given pressure from the courts as well as human rights organizations, the civil society, there was an attempt for him to return to the country, and that was on March 27th of 2018. And when he did so, he refused to enter the country using his Canadian passport, which he'd used to travel to Kenya, insisting that the courts had instructed that his passport, his Kenyan passport, be returned to him, and he said he would return to Kenya as a Kenyan, not as a Canadian citizen. Now, that led to a 3-day standoff at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. We saw Raila Amolo Odinga also present. There we had James Orengo, who is now the Siaya governor, also at the airport. Jimmy Wanjigi sought to get entrance into the airport in solidarity with Miguna. 3 days later, that is on the 29th, Miguna tweeted from Dubai that he was drugged and thereby forcibly ejected, or by that way forcibly ejected out of the country. You will recall those pictures of "I'm not boarding." All right, we'll have more on Miguna in a little bit, but Kitui leaders are now blaming their counterparts from Northeastern for exacerbating the tensions in Mathu Ward, where 2 people died after camel herders looking for pasture descended on Ukasi Forest along the borders of Kitui, Garissa and Tana River counties. Led by Governor Julius Malombe, the leaders now want more security personnel deployed to the affected ward to quell the tensions between farmers and pastoralists.
In a public baraza in Matho Ward, Kitui County, residents who are farmers brandished their weapons. The meeting held in the wake of the death of a grade 6 pupil allegedly killed by camel herders who have brought in their camels from northern Kenya, where the drought is taking a toll on the herds.
Tumepata ripoti kwamba kumekuwa na mvurugano kidogo katika sehemu ya kunywesha ng'ombe maji. Ngamia hizo maji ama wanyama maji. Na tumekuja ili tuweze kufahamu hali ilivyo.
Prior to this meeting, there was a clash between locals and the herdsmen at an animal watering hole. But according to Kitui leaders, the destructive camels are owned by highly influential people from northern Kenya, and they now want security reinforcement since the herders have been hostile to the community.
Hatuko hapa kutaja majina ya mtu yeyote, lakini tunasema ya kwamba wale ambao wameweka ngamia hapa watoe, wapeleke mahali ambapo watu hawauani, kwa sababu hapa wakichunga hapa watu wangu ndio wanauawa.
It must stop, lazima isimame kwa sababu hatuwezi endelea namna hii. Tunapoongea mmeambiwa hata security agencies wameambiwa watu wameonekana wakiwa na mabunduki. Ningependa